and welcome along to the Property Academy podcast by Opus Partners. I'm your host, Ted McKnight.
I'm Andrew Nicol.
And to the show, we've got another case study Sunday, and we are so pleased to be joined by one of the OG podcast listeners. Her name is Di Foster. Di, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much.
Now, Di, do you still listen to the show?
Every now and then.
Oh,
Just
Di, that's a good answer.
Just depending on how much ironing there's got to be done.
That's a no if ever I heard it. Now, for all of you log-term listeners like Manuel and Jason, you will know that Di was back on in like episode 80. So we're talking like almost 4 years ago now, and shared a bit about her journey. But we thought we'd get her back on for Case Study Sunday because she does have a great story. Now, let me ask you this, Di. What got you interested in investing in property? How did you get into it?
I think we had just analysed the fact that we weren't going to be building businesses. We'd just got to that stage in our life where we'd sold 2 of our businesses. I knew that we weren't going to dive into it because we didn't have the time or energy. And so ultimately I wanted the ultimate lazy investment, I think is, pretty much how it was.
And what made you think property?
Our family's always had some property. We had a business, my family had a business and they did quite well out of it, and they brought commercial property. And so it was something that was always on my radar. And over time, I'd worked out with the position we were in, commercial property wasn't going to be an option. So residential property seemed like the far more low-key risk, and also something that was actually obtainable for us to get into.
And so you decide, okay, I'm going to invest in property. Where did you start?
I actually randomly spoke to my cousin, and he said he'd met this batshit crazy guy that had held his hand through buying his investment property, and he said I should have a chat to him. And I went, oh, okay, that sounds like me. I think I might need my hand held. So lo and behold, Andrew, here we are.
Yeah, I forgot that you got referred through your cousin, but I know exactly who you're talking about now. Jeez, that is going way back now, isn't it?
It is.
Now, Di, you said that you wanted the ultimate lazy investment strategy. What does a lazy investment strategy look like?
Well, my head was in the clouds, and I thought, if I could just make this one purchase and then never think about it again, that would be amazing. And I didn't think that was possible. Hence, I worried about everything up front and asked Andrew every stupid question and told him if he'd come and hold my hand if I was crying. He said, yes, I will, but you won't. It'll be fine. And, for us, it was definitely not spending our weekends renovating and flipping properties. We are flipping lazy. We're not. We're just highly prioritised, and that was not our idea of fun. And, with a young family, I just thought there were other things that I could be doing that I could earn money from in order to help fund a property if I needed to. But ultimately, I did not want to be hands-on.
And what were those sorts of things that you wanted to spend your time doing instead?
Both Steve and I have done karate for 27 years. So we had a 5-year-old son at the time, or a 4-year-old son at the time. And I had some major health issues. So our first priority was like fundamentally us as a family, making sure that we're all still here. And then secondary to that was having some financial backing so we could enjoy our life later on.
I think from memory, you'd just come out of kind of dealing with a lot of those health issues. And I remember you saying to me that now that you've kind of, you want to focus on being set up financially regardless of what happens.
Yeah.
That was such a big driver for you.
Yeah, and I don't know if, Andrew, you would have remembered or if you understood, but at the time, it was almost like I was backing myself. It was like when I had a terminal diagnosis. They didn't think I was going to be there in a year's time, and with no medical intervention, I innately healed. So, I was feeling pretty lucky. But the thing was, I never wanted to take that for granted. But at the same time, I wanted to back myself, thinking I was going to be here at 96. And if I was going to be here at 96, then I was going to need to have some investment strategies.
And just to dig into that a little bit, because we've had Bill, someone within the Opus group, come and talk about insurance. Did he come on the podcast recently? No, I'm just imagining that. We spoke about insurance on it. And that's something that often people forget about their investment plan. Did you have insurances in place? Because I can't even imagine what it would be like to have that terminal diagnosis. What changed in your head that day?
so much. Like your perspective just shifts. You know, I mean, you know what Steve and I are like. You know, we're not complicated people, and I definitely became a lot more grounded. I'm very quick to understand what's important and what's not, and who I like and who I don't. And I think that there's that paradox. You know, like I'm a firm believer that I think I will die tomorrow, and I absolutely plan on being here till I'm 96. And one of the things that I did when I was unwell is I didn't go and spend all my money on a bucket list. Because of that literal paradox of, you know, I mean, they literally didn't think I was going to be there in 365 days, but I still didn't go and spend, I think I bought a really good vacuum cleaner and a really good TV. And if I was honest, I would tell you that Dad paid for those because he needed to do something. But that was, I didn't spend any like bucket list money because I was just, my perspective was so clear that I wanted to have each day as a really good day. And that to me is about being in myself and spending time with my family. And I think that that's, yeah.
And Di, I know that when you got into property investment, there were a lot of mental hurdles or barriers you had to jump over. What were some of those mental barriers or things you had to change your thinking around?
Andrew, what if the house never gets rented?
Yeah, it's written down on my sheet, vacancy.
I was obsessed with it. I was like, Andrew, what if this happens? And he goes, yeah, but you can still afford to pay the mortgage. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then he said, I'll tell you a secret. And I was like leaning in, having done economics. And he goes, we drop the rent. I was like, oh, yeah, that'll work, hey? Like, honestly, it was that simple. Like, I was obsessed with having a house with no tenants in it. And then when I look at the house that we bought in Wigram and oh man, that has just gone gangbusters. And I look at I think, how long have I had it, Andrew?
7 years, probably.
Yeah, I think I've had 3 days with it untenanted.
I should have taken a wager on that.
Yeah, you should have. I would, well, you know I owe you.
What would your portfolio look like if you didn't use a property investment company or coach to help you out?
I would have. I don't think Steve and I at that time could have backed ourselves in buying a property knowing that it was going to be okay. Like, I mean, I said to Andrew, was it 2 weeks ago? I just made him stop for 2 seconds and shut up. And I said, Andrew, look at me. I said, I am so grateful you held my hand because I can't imagine with everything that I'd been through, you just took the time to tell me it was going to be okay, not just answer my questions is what you did. And I made my decision and Steve made his, and we've just never looked back.
That's so nice. Do you need a tissue?
I'll be fine. Andrew does so.
These are called feelings.
Feel who? You can go. Yeah, no.
He's going to compose himself.
So there must have been still some nerve-wracking times over that journey. Can you think of any?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not since the day we went unconditional, and then when we settled. But even when we settled, that wasn't stressful. No, not a single day.
So what are you investing for? So you're making some long-term financial decisions. You're investing money into these properties that you could otherwise spend on vacuum cleaners. But what's the investment all for? What does the long term look like?
I think the long term for us is freedom and choices. I do not want to retire. You know, I'll get Steve to retire at some stage, but I don't want to retire. So I always want to have some income that would cover our expenses and things like that for as long as I possibly could, or as long as I want to. And I don't have any set plan to say, oh look, we need to sell this one and you know, get rid of the debt and stuff. I'm just like, actually we are just building some background investment here. That is my strategy, is at some stage we may need that choice and we've got it there, but there's no plan to live off them or anything at this stage.
And what's one thing that you've learnt, Di, that you think other investors should know?
Look, Steve and I did have quite a knowledge of, you know, economics, business and housing. If you don't have that, then go and seek out the proper information. You know, the first thing I said to you the other day was, my friend's come to me, she's asked me questions, so I grabbed one of your books and I've given it to her and she'll catch up with Stevie. You know, it's like, I love referrals, you know, I love telling people who you can trust and getting the right information. I think that, you know, I've been really lucky in my life where my father and I have always talked about business, investing, and our mindsets and all of that stuff. If you don't have that, you can find it. And that is, I think, the biggest thing. The thing that would have stopped me, or the thing that stopped me early, was my own mindset. And I look back now and go, my son, that will not be my son. I've told all the nieces and nephews that you will do better than us. You know, and I will start you young. Mum and Dad gave us a great foundation, but it never occurred to them to hold our hands along the journey because they did it quite differently. So, you know, one thing I think is just talk to people, get those 5 people around you that are really, really interesting and stretching themselves a bit. And you'll never get it right. You'll never get it perfect, you know, but you've just got, it's better to be in the arena and do something than nothing.
So it took you a wee while to get yourself going. What eventually made you take the plunge in property investment?
I think it was actually Jackson. It was actually just, you know, what are we going to have? We have to do something. And if we can do something passive and it's not going to impact on our lives, then why wouldn't we do that?
So Jackson being Di's 11-year-old son as well. So it's knowing that you needed to provide for Jackson over the long term, with or without you on this earth, was the important driver.
Yep.
And what's next in your property investment journey? What are you currently working towards?
We're just trying to get over the line our third investment property now. So about 2 years after we did the first one, we did the second one. And now I came back to Andrew a couple of weeks ago and said, okay, we've been chipping away at this. We've paid some stuff down. We've cleaned up a few bits and pieces. We're ready to look at it again. So we might just get over the line. I reckon we will. But,
we're doing everything to try.
Yeah, we are. And if that doesn't work, then there'll be a hard 6 months of just getting some shit together because I won't be turned down again.
And this might not actually make it into the podcast, but if you're talking to somebody who was, you know, on the fence about working with withapas partners, what would you say to them?
Look, you know, do not let the fact that they're slightly batshit crazy put you off, because actually that's the very best type of person, is someone that's slightly batshit crazy. And I think, again, you go to the people that have good knowledge and are invested in that, you know. And so I think the thing for me, and also specifically, as I said before, I am a flippin' lazy investor. So my relationship with you guys is because I'm really lazy, and that suits me really well. I've got other shit to do in my life, and I don't need to know everything about property. I just need to know some key bits of information. So to me, it is the best time saver.
And what do you want to hear more about on the podcast?
Well, if I listen to it, I could probably tell you.
Ironing tips.
Ironing tips would be good. Ed was bemused that my son actually knows how to iron.
I forgot that.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
Was he doing the ironing with you or something when you were listening to the podcast?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's because
I
I
was
remember.
teaching him to iron.
Because just for everybody who's maybe a bit newer on, back in the first 200 episodes, we had quite a number of episodes called Jackson Asks, because Di would email in all of the questions her son had about property. And it was from the view of a 7-year-old. And it was really interesting things like, what happens if I don't like my tenants? My favourite one was, do I get your houses when you die? Which for somebody, I hope you don't mind me saying, who was, had some health issues, I was like, Jackson, come on.
We talk very openly about things like that, and we've got an only son. We've got an only child. And so I think it's really important to actually be honest about this stuff, because I've told him, if you are not good with money, then I will spend it all. That I will promise you that I'm not leaving you little shit, with money if you're just going to be an ass about it. But he's really interested. And he just discovered the equation for compound interest the other day, and he's going off, man. And the wonderful thing that my very good friend Miranda said to me when I told her about Jackson and his compound interest formula, she said, don't forget to tell him it works for life. Compound interest works for life. If you get some skills and you keep keep building on them, God knows where you end up, but it's better than not having started. Same with money.
Right, let's wrap it up there, but please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Really does help us get the message out to more people. And hey, if you want to come on for Case Study Sunday, we'd love to have you on. Just send us a message on Instagram. We are at @opas_partners. Thanks for listening to the Property Academy podcast. I'm your host, Ted McKnight.
And I'm Andrew Nicol.
We're going to be back again tomorrow with even more daily strategies, tactics, and insights to help you get the most out of the New Zealand property market. Until next time.